Hey parents, thanks for taking the time to be part of our virtual Parents and Family Weekend. This is a strange year, isn't it? I mean, COVID, who knew that we would still be in this season of time right now? But I hope that you're being refreshed from your time for virtual Parents and Family Weekend. We're glad that we're able to do this and just connect with you. I have to say that your students have to watch me every single week in chapel because I'm the Dean of Spiritual Life. And so they have to watch me on chapel. Spiritual life is looking a little different as well this semester because there's not many things that we can do in person. And we want to connect with your students. We want to make sure that they're growing in their relationship with the Lord. So chapel's a main way that we do that. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to watch chapel, but you can watch chapel by going to the main website, go to offices, go to spiritual life, and then you'll see the chapel option there where you're able to watch any of the chapel podcasts, see what your students are watching. But it's a different year for sure for all of our students. I want to just take a minute and offer an encouraging word to you. Hopefully it's encouraging. In the middle of this season, let me just ask you this question. Have you felt like things are a little bit out of control? Have you felt like you're losing control? It seems like we can't control what's going on. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I do when I can't control things is I get frustrated. I want you to watch this video. I think this video best describes where we're at with COVID. Here's this guy. He's hitting the back of this passenger seat. She has reclined and he's on the back row and he can't recline. And so he's trying to send the message here that he wants her to sit back up. And so he just keeps hitting her seat over and over and over again. I don't know if you saw that video or not. It happened just last February, which is incredible to me. It seemed like it was years ago. But to me, that video kind of describes where we're at with COVID. It's kind of this annoying kind of thing where we're trying to get somebody to move their seat back up. I also looked at this video and I thought, this is the human condition, isn't it? This human condition where we're trying to take control of things and it's really difficult for us and we're getting agitated, we're getting frustrated. In fact, that woman, it's interesting, she seems to be the victim, but she's putting herself in a place where she could just lean the seat up and she could be kind and do that. Of course, he could be kind and stop hitting the seat as well. I'm wondering if there's a different way. And there is a different way. John 13 says this. Let me give you some context first. Jesus is with his disciples. This is the night before he's going to go to the cross to be crucified. Within 24 hours, he will be dead and being laid in a borrowed tomb. But this is the night before. It's the Last Supper. It's the last time that he'll share the Passover meal with his disciples. And they're together in the upper room. And it says this in verse 3 of John 13, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. This is an unusual posture for Jesus. It's an unusual posture for anybody. But here's Jesus taking on the form of a slave, a household servant, doing one of the most menial tasks that any slave could do, which was to wash the feet of somebody who'd been walking dusty roads. And nobody expected him to do that. The disciples certainly didn't expect him to do that. But Jesus, he was fine with that. He did that. Here's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if during this season of COVID, when we really want to be frustrated, when we're very discouraged, when we get maybe a little angry a little too quickly, just like those people in the video hitting the seat, maybe we should take a cue from Jesus. Maybe we should take a cue for how we can wash the feet of the person that's frustrating us. I have a friend, he was actually the chair of my PhD committee. He was a pastor for a long time. His first year of pastoring this church somehow came to odds with the deacons in the church. We're Baptist, and I don't know if you're Baptist or not, but if you're Baptist, you know, that's not an unusual story. But he got kind of crossways with the deacons, and they went to a meeting, and he knew that probably this was going to be his final deacons meeting or final meeting. And sure enough, the chairman of the deacons laid everything out, basically set up the scene for him to say, "We need your resignation." And my friend, my chair of my PhD committee, decided long before he went to the meeting that he was going to serve these men. And he took out a basin, literally, and a towel and water, and he went around and he washed each of the feet of those men in that room who wanted to fire him. And something strange happened. When he sat back down, the chairman of the deacons went over and took the towel and the basin and the water and washed his feet. And my friend stayed at that church for another 24 years as pastor. You know, it's amazing what can happen when we submit ourselves under the authority of Jesus and we take His example as a servant. And even in the midst of COVID, I'm going to suggest to you that weakness is the way to strength. I remember that Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he had been wrestling with this thorn in his flesh, a messenger of Satan sent to buffet him in order to keep him from becoming prideful. That's what he said, at least. So we don't know exactly what it was. It was something physical and it was something spiritual, but it was something painful. And at the time that Paul is writing this in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, he says that it had been 14 years of this. He prayed 3 times for Jesus to remove it. And that's not what Jesus said. Jesus said, my grace is sufficient for you. And then he said this, my power is perfected in weakness. And Paul said this, most gladly, therefore, I would rather boast about my weaknesses, that the power of Christ may dwell in me, may rest on me. During this season of COVID, when you're feeling weak and you're feeling discouraged and the last thing you want to do is serve, lean into that. Lean into the weakness. Let Jesus be strong through you. It's hard to do, easy to say, but hard to do. Certainly what I'm trying to do, not succeeding all the time, but I'm certainly trying to do that. Well, I hope that you enjoy the rest of the presentation and the rest of this virtual family weekend. I hope that you have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you on campus very soon.